6, a first look inside Haviland Chemicals on Grand Rapids' northwest side, where a chemical reaction created the release of a vapor plume over Grand Rapids today. This door was open to allow for more ventilation. Right now, all streets in that area of Ann and Turner are back open. We have team coverage on this tonight, beginning with 24-hour News 8's Joe LaFurgy, who was on the scene shortly after it all began today. Joe?
Yeah, Sue, firefighters cleared the scene late this afternoon. As it turns out, the danger to the general public, anybody who wasn't in that building you see over my shoulder, was probably pretty minimal. But of course, anytime you mention chemicals being released into the air, well, people worry. And the fire department wasn't taking any chances. The sound of fire engines racing to the scene and moon suit-clad firefighters going into action is always cause for concern, especially when your office is located across the street from a chemical plant.
Luckily, I was able to call an individual who I know at Haviland. They just told me it was just a chemical fire / spill, and not to worry, but he would let me know.
A few minutes later, a firefighter helped further relieve some of the initial fear.
Said everything was okay. The wind was going from south to north, so everything was okay at this point.
The alarms were still going off inside the Haviland facility this afternoon as cleanup continued. About 9:30 this morning, 2 chemicals mixed to make a swimming pool cleaning product reacted. They started to smoke. There were no flames, but a lot of heat, enough to set off the building's sprinkler system. Employees evacuated the plant. The tank where the chemicals were causing all the problems reacted the way it's designed to in an emergency. It vented the vapor buildup to the outside, avoiding the potential for an explosion. But the released vapor now formed a chemical cloud above the plant.
Very quickly after that, we have air monitoring stuff that we have on our hazmat truck that we're able to start doing monitoring, and the levels dropped off to next to nothing.
But an evacuation order affecting mostly businesses to the north of the plant remained.
That cloud is long gone, and the process now is how do they contain the liquid that's left from the fire suppression system from the heat buildup.
Inside, a pool of water from the building's sprinkler system mixed with chemicals from the reaction into a containment chamber, another safety feature designed to catch any tainted water and keep it in the plant. Hazmat crews stayed on the scene until a private contractor came in to pump out the water, and any potential danger was over.
I don't know if there ever was one, to be honest with you. But you know what? You got to take the precautions.
And of course, now the process is underway to try to figure out exactly what went wrong. That Haviland official told us they've been making this chemical, mixing it for the last 3 years without a problem. And as a matter of fact, they had mixed it, 5 years without a problem. They'd mixed about 3 batches this morning before the incident occurred. Live in Grand Rapids, Joe LaFurgy, 24-hour News 8.
And this is not the first time that Haviland Enterprises has been involved in a scene like this. 24-hour News 8's Leon Hendricks is covering that part of the story.
Regulators to talk to them about those past incidents and about their response to this one. They say they're still waiting for reports about what happened here before taking any further action if there is any needed here. But I want to show you what's happening behind me right now. I'll give you an up-close look here. Take a look. You can see someone there in one of those hazmat outfits. He's one of the people that's working to get this material out of the building to get it back in working order. You can see here there's a vacuum tanker truck there that's being used to help in that process. Now, compared to what we've seen in the past, today's incident was relatively minor. The most notable previous ordeal was back in 1991. We'll show you that in a moment. But there was also an ordeal in 2002 when the mishap prompted a large chemical cloud and a little bit of chaos.
In that incident, more than a dozen workers were taken to the hospital, and Haviland was fined almost $6 grand by the state, deemed unprepared to deal with such a spill. But since that day in 2002, a lot has changed at Haviland. There is preparation in place and training for its workers. The company has had no known violations as of late, other than a recent minor infraction with the state. But to see the worst of mishaps at Haviland, you have to go back to 1991. A large fire that year sent a much more significant plume of smoke over the city. In that case, the large fire made containing the situation far more difficult. After what happened today, the company will have to file reports with the state as they work to get a handle on what went wrong and why.
Now, Haviland is actually renting some tanker trucks to help store some of those chemicals. Obviously, they've got to bring in some backup equipment as they're not always prepared for this sort of incident. There were 2 other incidents in 2003 and 2004. No fines were imposed, and no one was hurt in those incidents. We'll continue to track the progress of the investigation into what happened here. Reporting live in Northwest Grand Rapids, Leon Hendricks, 24-Hour News 8.